What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host that recently experienced a loss of power. Not metaphorically, I meant like literally. That stupid-ass hurricane took out our power. Actually, no, the government took out our power, but the hurricane's the reason why they did. Anyway, I was alone, no internet, no data, no power. It was hot, there's no fan, no AC. Oh my god, it was horrible. Zach in today's subreddit is r/ChoosingBeggars. Alright, this story's called Choosing Beggars, Swastika Tattoo Edition. So I'm a tattoo artist, have been for 17 years. I'm highly regarded in my area. This is just to say, I know my business. Anyway, as part of an event my shop was participating in, I personally held a cover-up contest. I took submissions of crappy tattoos and the winner would get a free cover-up. There were a lot of good potential winners. Ex-wives' names, party tattoos from their teens, scarred, indecipherable messes. But the winner was a gentleman who sheepishly approached me and lifted his shirt to reveal a 9-inch by 9-inch line work swastika on his ribs. "I'm kind of embarrassed to go to the beach," he said. "I don't want my kids exposed to this stuff anymore," he said. I agreed. It would make a great portfolio piece for me. This was a challenging cover-up at any time, due to the size and long, black, straight lines. We met after the event and discussed our plan. He wanted Vikings. Cool, I thought. I love Vikings and consider myself a pagan. Though I should have known better in a sense. I'm very much a non-racist pagan, but there's definitely a bunch of racists out there, and covering a swastika with a common racist dog whistle squeaked me a little wrong. Anyway, better a sweet-ass Viking ship than a massive symbol of hate and misery. So I set about designing. I hid the swastika lines in the boards of a ship. Dark waves, the mast beams, geometric sail patterns. The Vikings on board were hale and hearty, and proudly out for the pillage. This would make a hell of a before and after. I was ready to go. So I'm booked for months, and it was half a year from consult to appointment. Tomorrow was our scheduled date. He called today. I'm relating this secondhand, as our poor receptionist had to handle the man herself. But essentially, "I don't want to cover the swastika anymore. I'm proud of it. I want to use your design in and around it and make it badass." Dude wanted me to pimp his swastika. We turn down racist crap anytime it comes up, which honestly is not often at all. So for a multitude of reasons, I was not going to do that. We explained. The contest was to fix mistakes of your past, not make them awesome. I'm not gonna put your shiny bitchin' new swastika in my goddamn portfolio. Way to miss the entire point of the contest and take the win from someone who actually wanted to move on from their mistakes. Anyway, dude got all indignant about losing his win and losing a tattoo worth easily at least $900. We told him to pound sand. He says he's gonna tell his buddies at the military school what kind of shop we are. 1, we're a shop that doesn't put up with racist crap. 2, I don't want to work with anyone he considers his buddy. 3, I'm booked half a year. You and your handful of inbred trash friends ain't gonna make a lick of difference to my bottom line. 4, I was in the army. At military entrance processing stations, right? They strip you naked and check for offensive tattoos. His ass ain't in the military with a 9-inch swastika. Phew, felt good to get that off my chest. Wow, see, at the beginning I was hopeful. I was like, hey, that's a guy, that's cool. And then at the end, wow. How do you decide that your swastika's a bad thing and then want to pimp it out? I mean, a lot can happen in like 6 months, but geez, man. You were so close to redemption, so close. You still have more time, swastika man. I hope that's not a no-no word. So much bleeping in this episode. Alright, this story's called Mom Wants Me to Amend My Prices and Work for Nothing. I thought I would share a few stories from when I was a nanny babysitter, and I worked through a website called care.com. Oh, I remember those commercials. Now, there are quite a few stories, but this one was one of my favorites to tell, Of course, she is also an entitled parent too, but she seemed more choosy about things. If you feel this belongs in a different subreddit, let me know. Okay, on the story, this is pretty long. I had been working as a nanny by this point for almost 10 years. I was not a live-in nanny, but I would spend nights there or watch children for even a weekend at your place of residence if requested. I was mainly there for childcare, but if you needed me to cook, clean, assist with schoolwork, drop off, or pick up your children, I could do that too. My rates were anywhere between $15 to $30 hourly, and for each child depending on what you wanted me to do. And my gas prices were also added into these fees. Most people were okay with my prices and paid me accordingly. You paid through the website. I have a degree in childcare. I know first aid, I can handle special needs children, I have a clean background, clean driving record too, and excellent references and reviews. My prices were common and fair, and were very clearly explained on my page, and any and all questions could be answered by a simple phone call, text, or email. At this time, I was currently watching 2 little girls already, Monday through Friday, from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. when I would drop them off at school. They were asleep until about 6:30 or 7, at which point I cooked them breakfast, made sure they were dressed and ready for school, and sometimes we would go over their homework if they needed help. It wasn't often, just a few times a month really. These girls were perfect angels and were very respectful and kind, and I loved watching them, and since they were asleep for a few hours, I only charged them $15 an hour for each girl, despite the fact that I was cooking and driving them to school, because for the 2 hours, I did practically nothing. I thought it was fair. Now I get a request for an interview for someone wanting me to watch her 3 children, ages 5, 7, 9, Monday through Friday, from 3 to 7 p.m. I go to her house and she seems lovely and her kids appear to be well behaved. I give her copies of my certificates and some reference numbers and so on and so forth, and the interview goes great, and a few days later, she hires me and I started that Monday. The day started fairly normally as I picked the kids up and we all had a snack after school before we went to work on homework. The younger 2 kids were okay, a little rambunctious, but they are kids after all, and usually calm down. But the 9-year-old was a complete brat. He would throw tantrums at the slightest provocation. He would hit his other 2 siblings for no reason at all. He refused to sit down and do his homework, constantly demand sweets, and if I refused, he would go into the pantry to steal them. He would literally scream at the top of his lungs for minutes until he was forced to breathe, and if I didn't watch him every second, he would break and destroy things. If he was the only child I had to watch, this wouldn't be too much of a problem. But there were 2 others who were younger than himself and needed my attention too. I wouldn't have been surprised if he was autistic or had ADHD or something, but his entitled mother claimed he was just high-spirited. Honestly, I should have known there was going to be trouble the second entitled mother came home at the end of the day. For one, I was only supposed to be there from 3 to 7, but she strolled in at 9 p.m. I wasn't sure what to do since she didn't answer her phone, so I cooked the kids dinner. I didn't like doing this unless instructed by the parents because I was using their food after all, and had gotten them all into bed by 8:30, and by the time she walked in, they were thankfully sound asleep. I instantly confronted her about being tardy. Ma'am, I don't mind being here from 3 to 9, but I need to know this ahead of time so I can plan accordingly. I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do, honestly, about feeding and getting your kids to bed because that was not in our original agreement, and I was forced to amend the cost through our app for this day. I said, cooking was always an upcharge, and gas was also added as stated clearly on my page. She got this confused look and quickly checked how much I charged her. It ended up being $20, gas included in this price, for each child, so $60 an hour. I was there for 6 hours, which came to $360. She was originally quoted at $180. But this new price was tagged for me staying 2 hours past what was discussed, and then added cooking and driving, which was not originally planned. Needless to say, she was furious with me over this.
How dare you charge me this outrageous price? I was told it would only be $180 and you doubled it just because I was a little late?"
She screamed and woke up her kids, but she screamed at them too to get back in bed. "Ma'am, I explained in our conversation when I took this job that the price was subject to change when circumstances change. And I wasn't sure of the price of gas either, so it was going to increase a little no matter what I did. I did try to call you several times, but you didn't answer your phone, and I added the extra gas it cost me driving to their schools and picking them up. I think I used like 3 gallons, and that's all I charged for. Basically added 1 gallon charge to each kid. Now, I am willing to amend the charge back to the original $180, but only for today since I was unable to get a hold of you and tell you all this. However, if this happens again, I will be charging you the $360. I said simply and amended the charges and was about to leave, but she stopped me.
"Wait, why is this house such a mess? Don't I pay you to clean this place up? There are dishes in the sink, you obviously didn't vacuum, toys are still out, etc., etc."
She was complaining loudly again. Let's be clear. The house was honestly a mess when I arrived, and I even took out the trash and tidied up a little while I was there. But I was not her maid. "Ma'am, if you want me to clean, you need to add that into the list of services you require, so the price can be adjusted for extra work. You only checked off childcare, and nothing else. No cooking, no cleaning, no schoolwork assistance, nothing. Just watching your children, and I went beyond the scope of your request already as it was, and stayed late with no notice. I was not paid to clean, so no, you actually don't pay me to clean."
Then how can you justify $15 an hour for my children? I called X and she said you only charge her $30 an hour and you don't charge her more to cook for her kids.
Entitled mother yelled. X only has 2 children who are asleep for 2 hours before I even start work. And at breakfast, they usually want cereal, so I wouldn't really call that cooking. And honestly, I don't usually drive them to school either. Most of the time, their dad comes home and he takes them. I explained. Your situation is different, and there is no use comparing yourself to X in this.
Whatever. I expect you to be here tomorrow and we'll discuss your prices then,
she said, all haughty and high and mighty. I did go to her house a little earlier so that we could discuss my prices, and she explained that my prices were unfair and she should only pay $10 each hour, and that she would also be pulling longer hours at work, so she would need me from 3 to 9, sometimes even 3 to 10 or later. She expected me to cook, clean, help with homework, and make sure the kids took a bath before bedtime, which needed to be at 8:30. She figured that since the kids would be asleep from 8:30 to whenever she decided to show up, that I shouldn't be paid for that extra time either. She honestly acted like this was fair to me. I told her flat out that if she wanted all these extra services, then it would be going up to $26 per child, and she would most certainly be paying for all the hours I was at her house, not just for when the kids weren't asleep, and I was not going to accept her low offer of $10 an hour. Not even $10 for each kid, just $10 an hour. She just turned up her nose at me and said,
"Take it or leave it,"
as if that was some kind of threat. I already had work and usually found it fairly easily too. I shrugged and said simply, "Okay, I'll leave it, and I will not be watching your children today or any further."
"Wait! I have work to do today and the rest of the week. How am I supposed to find somebody on such short notice? You have to watch them,"
she cried, realizing I was not going to give in to her crazy demands. "I will happily work for you, but you need to agree to my price right now and pay in advance through the website like everyone else does. I am not doing this for less than $26 per kid per hour if you want me to cook, clean, help with homework, and get them into bed. $20 per kid per hour if I don't have to clean." Honestly, I wanted to charge her $30 an hour, but refrained from doing so. The only problem was the entitled brat. The other 2 were pretty well behaved.
fine.
She complained, and I refused to stay until I saw her pay for my service in advance. I told her from the get-go, though, that I would only stay with her for the rest of the week, and that she needed to make other arrangements before then. Of course, she didn't, and tried to contest my prices again and again, almost daily. Even though I kept her house spotless, cooked her children good and nutritious meals, even would make them dessert out of my own pocket for good behavior. Entitled brat did mellow out a little bit, but still had his outbursts and tantrums from time to time. I always made sure that the kids bathed, brushed their teeth, and were in bed by 8:30. I did everything she wanted, but she was still unsatisfied. And I simply was tired of arguing with her about everything, so I was forced to drop her as a client. I'm not sure who she hired after me, but hopefully she found someone else who met her needs. Thanks for sticking with me this long. Okay. All I'm getting from this is that nannying is a good racket. What is this? Freaking $360 a day? How much are the parents making? That's my question. I would never be a nanny, though. Who would willingly, subject themselves to that? Oh boy. I don't hate kids or anything. I love kids, but I also like not having my hair be gray. This story's called, If You Can't Deliver, I Want a Discount. I was selling a saddle on Craigslist a few years ago. Original cost of the saddle was $1,000. I kept it well maintained, and given the condition of the saddle, I thought $750 was a fair asking price. I specified on the ad that I would only do porch pickup or meet in my town.
I'd like to buy the saddle. Will you take $700?
I'm willing to do that. When can you pick up?
Well, here's the thing. I'm not local, and I'm on the road about to pass through your area. Can you drive to X City, about an hour away, in 2 hours and meet me there?
I tell him I can't. I'm at work. It's 1 p.m. and I'm way too busy to leave my office for any reason. If he wants the saddle, he'll have to wait until after 5. And even then, I'm not driving a 2-hour round trip out of town. My terms were stated specifically in my ad.
That's ridiculous. I'm never gonna come through your area again, and I'm on a time crunch.
I get that your time is valuable to you, but my time is also valuable to me. If you can't come to my town after 5, then don't buy my saddle.
If you're gonna make me drive to you, I want the saddle for $400.
Yeah, that's gonna be a nobody. Okay, what? Okay, this is ridiculous. Okay, first of all, $1,000 for a saddle? I get that there's probably more to a saddle than I realize, which isn't much if I'm being honest, but I feel like a few $100s, that's understandable given, the construction that goes into one. But $1,000, is that like an average price for one? Is that, what are we looking at here for like the average saddle? Because that's insane.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.